Hello coaches, welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach Breakdown. This week we're going to look at a pre-game session. Sometimes it's difficult to organise and manage all the dynamics pre-game. Obviously, the day before a game, you've got to manage training loads and intensity, but the coach will still want to get the tactical piece and get people feeling good and confident about going into the game. So how do you manage both together? We've got a full example here from Carlo Ancelotti with Real Madrid in the build-up to the Super Cup game. We've got the full session breakdown. If you want the details and the dimensions and all that great stuff, you can get them on the link below for free on the Modern Soccer Coach website. And when you're there, please check out more articles, more resources, tons of stuff on there. Feel free to join our online course as well if you want more work on the tactical side. And before we start, please make sure you like and subscribe. Okay, Ancelotti session plan. Let's go. Okay, we always start these breakdowns with objectives. Now, obviously, going into a game, there's going to be a tactical objective and there's going to be that energy and confidence objectives. But the key objective for a session design standpoint going into this game is lack of time. You want to get on and off the pitch as quick as possible. You don't want to keep the players out there too long. You don't want to extend certain aspects of the session because, of course, fatigue will set in and you've got 24 hours out from a game. So time is a big factor here. Carlo Ancelotti gets the players on and off the pitch here in basically 1 hour, which is unbelievable when you look at the session flow, and he's got 6 exercises to get through. So we're going to go through it now. Really interesting. I've got the times as well, which I think are really important, so that's why I put them up there. Here we go, part 1. Okay, so part 1 is, I suppose, the simple and basic part where it's an activation and warm-up. Players organised into 2 pairs. They just go in pairs and go through a series of dynamic movements. They're continually moving. But this is only 4 minutes and 20 seconds, which isn't very long. There's no real static stretching. There's no real intense sprinting. There is a little segment of 30 seconds, and we'll add this in where Ancelotti puts the sprinting, but it's only 4 minutes 20 seconds, quick, organised into pairs, and they work through this very quickly. 10 by 20 yard area, and then they move on to the next part. Alright, our next part is an extension of that warm-up. So now they go into 11v2, so everyone's involved here, goalkeepers as well. You've got 2 groups, 2 squares, very simple. 2 players on the inside, 11 players on the outside. If you lose the ball, you become a defender. Not really rocket science in the setup, but more interesting on the time spent. He goes 9 minutes here total. No breaks, no switching over. They just stay, and I think maybe the objective here again goes to that enjoyment and confidence piece that you're looking to take into the game. So 9 minutes total, very simple. Okay, our next piece is a Y passing exercise. So 2 groups now. This is where they start to, I suppose, increase the tempo of the exercise. You've got 2 groups, and I thought initially these groups looked a bit big, but they get 2 balls going quite quickly in this here. And I'll put the video on the link below on the website so you can watch the full session too. 2 stations with cones about 15 yards apart, and they're working through 2 to 3 variations here. Very crisp with the passing, but again, the amount of balls here keep the session moving quite quickly, keep the exercise flowing quickly. Again, time isn't that high. It's only 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which isn't a lot when you think of it, when they go over there and get going. But they go through this really fluid, really smooth at a really high tempo. And then after this, they're going into 2 or 3 quick sprints at the side of the pitch. So again, interesting with the setup, interesting with the tempo, and interesting with the times. Okay, after the sprints, they go into an 11v11 game. It's played just above the 18s. More width than depth. So again, the team looks to be set up in a way that they would prepare to play the match, and then the opposition, I would guess, are set up in the way they look at the opponents the next day. Very simple, but what's interesting here is the time. It seems to be 2 8 to 9 minute periods that they go for. They extended the second one. It looked like a player got hurt, so you don't know if they've gone over a little bit or if they've called it a little bit sooner. But Ancelotti referees the game, which is really interesting. There's a couple of free kicks that happen in this here as well that they set up. It looks as if they're trying to replicate things that maybe they've worked on. Not rocket science again from a pre-game, but again, the times are really interesting. I'm sure people who are working with teams would find those periods quite long. There's no stoppages, there's no coaching, they play, and again, probably for players just to get confident with the shape or playing against a specific type of system. Very competitive, high quality as you would expect to. Alright coaches, we'll take a quick break here. If you are enjoying this breakdown and you would like the details of it, or even watch the session, we've got it for free on the link below. Please check that out, modernsoccercoach.com. And when you're there, please check out tons of free resources, free articles, free breakdowns. But if you want to support the work, please check out modernsoccercoach.com/shop, and we've got more resources there that you can help support what we're doing. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Really appreciate the support. Okay, let's finish it up. Alright, after the 11v11 game, they almost go into cooldown mode, where a little bit of crossing finishing now. This takes place in the final third. 2 wide players on each side, alongside a coach and a supply of balls. Very, very simple setup. Attacking players in the middle in pairs. Simple combination out wide and then across for the middle pair to finish. So just basic repetition. Again, interesting on the time. 5 minutes. Short and sweet, but a high quality. And more repetition to maybe a bit of confidence and a bit of fun at the end of the session. And then the last exercise looks to be a bit of fun with a shooting competition at the end. So simple setup again. 2 servers on the edge of the 6-yard box. Looks to be the players are organised in pairs, or maybe it's an individual competition. But the service comes from the edge of the box, and then the player at the edge of the box has 1 touch to control and then the second touch to shoot. I would definitely recommend that you check this out with the video on the Modern Soccer Coach page below, because some of the quality of finishing here is unbelievable. Even the goalkeepers get involved, and it's just different class. You can see these players' technique, and they're having a bit of fun with it, and there's players sitting around enjoying watching it as well. So gives you a little bit of insight into, again, a cool down element, but also putting players at ease, confident before the big game. So interesting to watch, fun to watch as well. So there you have it, coaches. A full session from Carlo Ancelotti and Real Madrid. Again, if you want the breakdowns, you can get them on the link below. And if you want to watch the full session, I'll put that in with the breakdown as well. It's really, really interesting just to see, again, how teams work through it, how they organise it, and the flow. It leads you to think that this is a pretty standard template from Real Madrid because of the fluidity of it. The players seem to be just go through it, go through it, go through it. So pretty low perhaps in variability where there's nothing new in it. But again, once they start to get to the wide passing and they start to lift the tempo, they're very, very purposeful with their work. Also, I just think from interest and from a coaching standpoint is there's 6 activities. Could you get through 6 activities inside 61 minutes? Yeah, it sounds really, really doable. And some of those exercises, again, the 11v11 might go on a bit longer than some people would think at 18 minutes. But I think the space in between, how they get players from one exercise to the other, which is why I would say to watch the full exercise on the link below, is because that's really, really interesting. They're doing that in about 20-30 seconds. And sometimes pre-game, especially as a coach, you have a list of things that you want to get through. So sometimes there's a temptation to spend an extra maybe 1-2 minutes or even longer where you're talking and talking and talking, and that can then get through the flow, and all of a sudden you've been out there an hour, 20-30 minutes, and people become disengaged with it. So it's interesting as to, again, Ancelotti gets involved. It's not as if he's sitting in the stands watching it. He's refereeing the game, so there's probably a little bit of chemistry and cohesion that he's working on as well, or quality control. You never quite know, but I think it's really, really interesting as to how his staff, and obviously he's got 5-10 people working alongside him to making sure it flows pretty quickly, but there's a purpose behind every exercise, and there's also a purpose behind the structure. So I always think it's almost as interesting to see the flow of an exercise, and not just how you move from A to B to C, but quite literally, how long are the water breaks? Where are the coaching interventions happening? If those are planned and purposeful, and maybe they're going and doing a video session after this on the opponent. So it's just, again, in the game today where the calendar and the schedules are so intense and they're playing so many games in such little time, it's interesting to see where they're getting the rest from and how they're working through those daily sessions and organisation for the week. So I found that really, really interesting. Again, please head on over to modernsoccercoach.com and check out the video, check out the links. And if you enjoy it, as always, please give us a like. Please make sure you subscribe. We've got some brilliant content coming up in the next couple of weeks. And if you haven't checked out the recent interview with David Tinney on tactical periodization. I've got a lot of messages about it. Please check that out as well. So I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.